Today is day 146 of the Arukh HaShulchan OC. Today we are learning Simon Kuf Vav, Sif Daled to Simon Kuf Vav, Sif Yud Aleph, about who's potter from Tefillah. If you would like to sponsor an upcoming shir or more of Arukh HaShulchan OC, needless to say, it'd be very greatly appreciated. Please contact me directly. So, Sif Vav, Skim is Kuf Vav, Sif Daled. V'yesh b'zeh sheila. I have a question that in terms of people who are potter from davening because they're involved in a mitzvah. So, according to the second reason which he gave in Sif Aleph, that they can daven. You can daven walking when necessary. Why can't we allow somebody who's osir mitzvah to daven while he's on his way to the mitzvah? Like we did, we matir and Simon Tzadidala then. Yesh mishatir to those days mitzvah potter. When you're involved when you're walking, you're osik in a mitzvah right then, and therefore you're potter from doing another mitzvah. It's not just on your way to do a mitzvah. And they go, why you're going on your way to a mitzvah? Daven. No, you're potter at that moment. Kriya Shema is except Kriya Shema Chayiv. Mishum Shein Yochol Mishum Dekal Yochol Likros. Kriya Shema Chayiv, because it's easy to do Kriya Shema as opposed to Tefillah, which seems to be more difficult. This establishes Abraham. The Arukh HaShulchan doesn't like that as an explanation. Nearly the Bemis Tefillah ain't elamuma. So he says really because davening can only be when you're standing still. V'rak b'derech yitul chacham me'atayim shizbar sham. That when you're on the derech, you're allowed to daven if it's sakana for you to stop and so on and so forth. But that's because he's required to daven. V'lo b'misha paterba. It's interesting. Arukh HaShulchan holds derech is not a ptur. Derech is a chiyuv, which you have to then try and fulfill as best you can. But mitzvah, he says, is a ptur. And therefore, since you don't have to daven, don't. Because davening mu'umad is a very difficult way. Davening is primarily mu'umad. Davening, walking, is b'diavad. So therefore, don't do it. I don't think it's talking about sitting down. In a plane, you're sitting down, that's not a problem. Mu'umad means staying still. You can't make for him a tefillah which is not appropriate, which is and feels appropriately only b'amida. Again, it's for osik mitzvah. Hey, nashma banim api shibtum kriyashma, women and children, even though the example shma chavim b'tefillah, they're chayav to daven. Because of Rambam Reish Perikav, hatam we should have a mitzvah say shalaz man grama. Tefillah is a mitzvah say which is not time contingent. The tefillah array mitzvahs the right. They'll say the right. So holds of course that tefillah is a mitzvah the raisa and was makavu and the raisa the raisa has no set time. They have the mitzvah say shas man and as man grama. So it's not contingent on time. Tefillah avagav the rabbanon kavuz mani tefillah. Even the rabbanon introduced my tefillah. B'samchu akra der avoker b'tzorayim asicha. Morning, evening, morning, and afternoon. I will discourse. Because he's more lenient, and exempt women and children by making it time contingent. No, and the Gemara says it's I'm sorry, I skipped the line. It says that women and children no, I said children before, right? That was a mistake. Women and slaves are chayav and tefillah. Isn't that obvious? The Temi might say, oh, the Ksiba Erva Bokus and says evening and morning. What do you mean Kamash Mulan? You came up with the Rabbanon and then you have to tell me that it's not a mitzvah Shazman Grama because you're the Rabbanon? Is that obvious? So he says, Klomer, it's to say, the Kamash and the Kim and the Torah ain't Lozman Kavua Chavis. Since with the rice is Lozman Kavua, therefore they're Chayavos. TV Ram because of Gamma Reef Ayin Sham. Long brackets here. Rashi Sa'al Mocha Girsa Zu. He erased his Girsa and he wrote the Shekasabaki because the Rachmeninu. We say they are chayev because it's rachme. He takes out that whole line for the Gemara. The Seik Ramban should be on a race to Peites and Tefillah the Rabbanon, because he holds Rashi like Tefillah the Rabbanon, and therefore it really does have a time, because the Tikar Takana was Erev Avodah V'Tzarayim. So therefore he has to come out to Rachmin. You know that it's a supplication which is necessary for everybody in order to make women and slaves chayiv. Rif Rabban Girsa some Shita, Logas to Rachmin. You know the Rif Rabban the opposite Girsa. That's because they hold the Raisa, and there's no Zman the Raisa. This is clear. There's some Gedolim who trying to square away Rashi's Girsa with the Rambam Shita. Baruch Shlo Garsi Klal V'Duk, and it's clear he didn't have that Girsa. Vav L'Shitas Rashi v'Tosfos Ramban L'Tefillah the Rabbanon. According to them, the Chora came and the Chora the Rabbanon Kabuz Manim have his man grama, so therefore it should be a spin that say Shaz man grama. So Garsi B'Kamal, that's the one that says it shouldn't be Rachmeninu, because there's supplications for mercy. Perish Rashi Sham Lo Shav Klal B'D Rabbanon Chalek Ben Zman Grama L'Ein Zman Grama. According to Rashi, it sounds like there's no difference between Zman Grama and Zman Grama to Rabbanon. All has to do with how they, with what they're Masakin, not Masakin. But Tosh Shom Kosu to come to Rabbanon, Yesh Chalek. Even the Rabbanans, they're looking between Mitzvah Seisha Zman Grama and not Grama. Moshe Bachim Nashi Mehala. Women examine how, which is Mitzvah the Rabbanon, Yesh Zman Grama. Avagad Avad the Rabbanon. Not even made it Tefillah Rachmeninu, but Tefillah because it's Rachmen, a Tiknu Af Lenoshim. They also made it for women. Zayin, V'nei Zeu Ba'adei L'Rashi Noshim Chavas B'shlosh Tefillas B'yom Kanoshim. Wow. Women are chayim in 3 tefillos a day like man. According to Rashi. Sheididei Ein Chiluk B'Rabbanon Ben Zman Grama L'Ein Zman Grama. According to him, there's no such thing as man Grama. By Mitzvah Seder Rabbanon. I mean, it's not pure. Kamataisis Kenu. Taisa also. Sheidu Omeretz Gemara Furish came. I have got this wrong grama. That's what the Gemara is saying. Even though it's my grama, come never escape the Rachmenidu. Chivin Rabbanon Abbas my grama. Mele the Chayavas Kanashim. So therefore they should be chayv saying like men. I believe Ram with low garsi tam the Rachmei Elchion Minas Teiram they as my grama. When I believe Ram Mudon the Gersa because of Rachmei that they have to daven. But rather it's not meant to say Shaz my grama Mido Raisa. So they only have an obligation once a day, which is the Torah requirement. In the Shoshu, in whatever format their tefillah wants, it suffices. The Takara, the Rabbanon, certainly doesn't take effect on them. Came my part of Pshita, because then we no question where Pshita that they have to daven, because it's not partial at all. It would be partial that it's not partial. They have to daven in the tefillos hakvuim, the tefillos kvuos, the set tefillos. Tuva kamashmuan, that they have to daven the set tefillos. So the vadi kamash kosav. So long brackets here. The Mishnah before we get that Mishnah Bura kosav. Das rova poskim. The Shmuel writes most of us know that women are chayiv and tefillos shachris and mincha, but from Marav they're potter. And for Musaf the Tzach wrote their potter, but the Magi Gibor and Paskin they're chayiv. I believe the minhag in most Beis Yaakovs. And for most women who are makbid on davening is Shachris and Mincha specifically. That certainly is the Rebbetzin Shita, as far as I know. Okay, but I'm going to have Rambam Sikh on base, Kitzer Bezeh, the Vada Rambam Kenu. This is clear according to the Rambam. Rashi Tesis Badachavas, Bechol Tfilos, Kanoshim, Ubiz Manon. Rashi Tesis L'chayiv and all the Tfilos at their proper time. The Amir Rabbeinu Yonah Kosvu Avabi Sheish Lozman Kavua. Even though tefillah said set time, I feel like nevertheless came with Shamru. Halabai she spelled them call Yom Kulo. It would be wonderful a person down the entire day. Have a Ke'en as Magrama Daninala. Even though there are set times, but the set times are kind of like a minimum. And the minimum is I don't know if the minimum is the right term. That's like punctuating the chiyuv, which is ongoing. If you're in the Chayabas. Therefore, they're chayiv. Inam neishu rachmi, because it's rachmi kalashano. V'lo down the time we show my Torah. I know why he needs the first reason. The Rashi v'atoyis before the time we show the rachmi ninu. That should be enough. Leave the Rambam lo kashkal. According to the Rambam, it's not difficult at all. So Chumar Esfili di mi the Rabbanon. I have to say that according to the Talmidei Rabbeinu had to give the hold that feels the Rabbanon. If they had gears of Rachmaninu, they didn't have the gears of Rachmaninu. But I have a Kamashman Hazman Grama. And the Kamashmalon, I have a Kashalu. It was difficult to them rather. Hazman Grama. The Sekatays, the Gamdra Banan Shachsman Grama. So if that's the case, and they didn't have a gears more which answered it, is that they're Tushnei. They answered two answers. According to the Gears said, Kulo means the entire day or any part of the day. So therefore, even a moment. Tam Acher Lagamri, Ein Sham. The Zelvari Tamo. Shay Rog Gears is Rashi Tes the Rachmaninu Bagam Hagish Tam Zeh, Kemusham and Sham. And so therefore, why should Levush bring down another reason? Because the Bedel Yeshiyashim Ashinoshlan Ein Zirs B'Shleishet Tfilos. The Shitas Rashi Taisis. The Rosh Hashanah says, since Rashi does hold they should be davening 3 times a day. It's a little difficult why they don't. Rifla Ramam Asi Shapir. According to Rifla Ramam, it's okay, Baduk. Ches. You have to educate time for tefillah if they reach the age of chinuch. The Rambam tefillah the right so. According to tefillah is the minat teire pshita davi kuchol mitzvah shchayil chancha. So any other mitzvah in which they have to educate them. V'achi mutarav, the obligation is on the father. Tefillah serving the tefillah the rabbanan, even though those tefillahs the rabbanan, mikom nevertheless came in the rachmei, who since they are supplications of mercy, he do chachamim of like he has to father has to custom him like he was an adult. Nevertheless, kids can eat before davening. Should give them eat before davening. The Shem Yachlu should be about the because it might get weak and be in danger. For the Davash etzem usher. Interesting lumdus here. Something which is not the actual isser. Elotoli bisman has to do with what time it is. Lo shach v'zechinuch. Kiddush, and leave before Kiddush and give them even with your own hands to eat, because an isser she'ein. Let's go it over again. Etzem davar she'eino etzem isser elotoli bizman lo shach b'zechinach. Wow. Okay, test. Shonach ha'chem Mishnah. Coming to the Mishnah, mafsikin kriyas shema. You interrupt for shema when you're in the middle of a meal or something. Famous thing is tefillah, not for tefillah. No, it's that's Psachim. Here it's talking about when you're learning Torah and you're then you don't interrupt for shema, not for tefillah. The Rishon gives 3 reasons. One, echad kriyas daraisa, tefillah rabban. Actually, that is in Shabbos too about Suda, Sapar, and all that. But I guess it's going specifically on the Torah aspect. Okay? Chayav Kriya Shema D'Oraisa Tefillah D'Rabbanan, and that's when we're making the D'Oraisa. V'omer Kein Tefillah Ramban Tefillah D'Rabbanan. Obviously, this is going like the Ramban. V'asheni Mibnei Kriya Shema Zman Kavua Min HaTorah. That's that time D'Oraisa. Tefillah Ein Zman Kavua. V'omer Kein Tefillah Rambam the Tefillah Min HaTorah Ein El Shein Zman Kavua. It's like the Rambam doesn't set time. Rechlo Markein. You have to say these Tefillah David D'Rabbanan, because we're going to Rabbanan. Mid Rabbanan Zman Kavua. Rabbanan gave it a fixed time. V'ashlishi the Kriya Shema Ein Tzor Kavana Rak Pasuk Rishon. Shlishi Shema only is covered first pasuk. Tefillah Tzor Kavana Ayin Sham Tefillah needs Tefillah a Kavana as long as possible. The Gam Usover Daven D'Oraisa. He also has D'Oraisa. Needs some Machlekes Rabbeinu. Yesh by Yerushalmi. In this case, we find this Machlekes Rashi and places first the Rashi Tes the Ramban versus the Rambam and the Rif is in the Yerushalmi. Brackets here, Shagasaris Mindalik, Sharam Mishlazu, and Shabla Yerushalmi as the Shmuchel Farish, Zavdi Viduk, the Yerushalmi answers Shagasaris' question. Yud, Isa V'Mar Hashem, the Hadoskim, B'Torah, Ein Mafsin, and feel that which people are learning. Don't interrupt for Tefillah, Einan, Elikon, Roshim, Yechai, B'Chavirav, especially Roshim, Yechai, and his Chabura, Sheturasum, Nosam, that Torah was their craft. Philip Sik, after the record, they didn't interrupt him for a moment. I've gone on about we should seeking Ben Kriya Shema Ben Tefillah. We interrupt both for Shema and for Tefillah. She avars man Tefillah. We're going to miss man Tefillah. The lo yavar zman at the time's not going to pass. We are also allowed to learn. Mishabura brings down opinions in the place that if there's time, you don't have to interrupt, even if you started be'isser. You started after the Zman Tefillah came and you're learning at home. Your Rabbah started passing. If you started be'isser, and you create for Kriya Shesh the rice, you have to interrupt and read. Uh, and Mishabur also agrees it's best to stop and to read even before he reaches his mind, but that has nothing to do with tefillah. Okay, back to the Arukh HaShulchan. And it's chabur, since their Torah was their umnus, they can't be mafsik, even they're going to miss the time of davening. But on the other hand, for your Kriya Shema, they have to read with the brachos. The brachos only the rabbanim. Once you chayim Shema, brachos get left along with that, which is a bit of a chiddush. Then they stop and learn and don't daven Shemona Esrei. That we can learn even us as long as not going to miss this man. Zoshitas Roa Pasam Shloka and Rashi holds Simon Pei Tesiv Chav Zayin Ayin Shom. Some of these bar there, it's also we learned the Shema Leila Achem, teaching others answer Lavsik Lo Kriya Shema for Lo Tefillah, not Mavsik for anything. Mishabura, long Mishabura here. 1 second. The Talmud Torah, back, still clearly, that's because Talmud Torah, the Rabbin got them all. Talmud Torah Mass is very great. Soil. In the middle of this year, also got Loch Chaz and after finishing the learning, finishes Shema. V'dayin you should know that Filu, the Shitas Rashi, according to Rashi, Miskal Limo Lo Yavsik, if you start to learn, don't interrupt. It may not show Veres, if the time is not passing, Shadayin Zman Krosh Kriya Shema, the spell afterwards. Mr. Brewer writes, even if the time will pass when you are teaching others, you should still continue teaching, but only if by you're not teaching, they're going to be Mavatil Torah, and they're not going to be able to learn afterwards. Okay, in other words, I guess they're not going to learn. I mean, that they're going to do bit of Torah of not coming together for a shir later on. But perhaps, but I think it would also be logical if you're teaching the masses and they're going to be Mizbato because you're going to daven. And also, if you're going to not be able to reorganize them later on, logic dictates that's more important than tefillah. Item sounds like in any event, you interrupt if Zman tefillah will pass. The Rabbah also writes in basic name, but and Chuliyam, it's also to start teaching after the time comes, if you reckon that by your teaching, or certainly your learning, the Zman Kriya Shema is going to pass. Yudav, Rambam is astonishing in this respect. So he's about learning, because man at tefillah proseiku mitzpalel. He interrupts davening. You start Torah but if Torah was his craft, he doesn't involve himself in any other work. Is involved in Torah at the time the tefillah would come about. Ain't no he doesn't interrupt. Mitzvah's Talmud Torah gedolim mitzvah's tefillah akal shana, because mitzvah of learning is greater than tefillah. Futema, it's astonishing. Shari b'gemara mamar Rabbi Yochanan lo shalom Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai ve'chavei Rav avonu mafsikim. Only they don't not mafsik. Mosh because of a Torah Shulchan Aruch. Can Rabbi Yochanan keep seek coach can anachnu? Since Rabbi Yochanan interrupted, we certainly should interrupt. Yochanan pshita shoyes the Torah Shulchan also. And Rabbi Yochanan, he didn't have any craft. Rabbi Yochanan was a masimid too. So ekasab the mishnah Torah Shulchan also ain't no posek. How do you say that by us Torah Shulchan doesn't interrupt? Hayim anachnu gedolim me Rabbi Yochanan. Tzarich iyun gadol. In other words, Rabbi Yochanan seems to say it's dafka the Torah Nusam of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, not our Torah Nusaynu, even though we have Torah Nusaynu. So therefore, how can the Rambam say that it's still applicable? He doesn't say only Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. It sounds like even our generation, Torah Nusam is exempt from tefillah. Makes no sense. So in Yud Beis, which is really tomorrow's, we'll see how he answers the question.